For more than half a century, a senator named Strom Thurmond held the record for the longest speech on the Senate floor, 24 hours, 18 minutes. But importantly, he held the Senate floor for that amount of time because he was speaking in opposition to the Civil Rights Act of 1957. This man was so hell-bent against the prospect of equal rights for all Americans that he stayed on his feet for a full day and then some. And that record lasted for nearly 7 decades until today, when Senator Cory Booker, a man who Strom Thurmond specifically wanted to deprive the right to be standing on the Senate floor, would beat that record and take his rightful place in the history books. And here's what I think is the most important point here. Because the reality is that despite Cory Booker's best efforts, not much will materially change from yesterday to today, and that's owed to the fact that Democrats are in the minority and have very little tools at our disposal. We can't pass legislation, we can't block much of Trump's agenda, and so at a moment where we can do so little, what we need, what I have been begging for, is for our elected officials to stand up and show some fight. To let us know that they are willing to think outside the box, to show up, to get into good trouble, as John Lewis says, necessary trouble, as John Lewis says, and that is what Booker is doing right here. Knowing that we've got a base desperate for our elected officials to show some fight, Booker knew that he couldn't pass legislation, he couldn't block legislation, and so he put his literal body on the line. He stood up there for over 24 hours. He didn't stop talking for over 24 hours. He didn't use the restroom for over 24 hours. In a moment where we are desperate to see our elected officials meet this moment, this is what that looks like. The reality is that this matters. It matters for an electorate that is desperate to see some fight. And if you've watched my videos, you know that that's been the drum I've been beating for months. I know that I speak for so many of you in saying that we need to see our elected officials meet this moment with the urgency that it deserves. And if they can't do it, if they won't do it, then step aside and make room for people who will. I am tired of not just watching Republicans defeat Democrats, but even worse, knowing in advance that Republicans are going to defeat Democrats. The two sides are playing two completely different games. They're playing two different games in the media, in the White House, in Congress, and behind the scenes. And yes, it's unfair. It is unfair that they can lie with impunity. It's unfair that they can break the law. It's unfair that they can manipulate the media into this asymmetric coverage that we've become accustomed to. But I'm tired of pointing out that it's unfair. And I am desperate to actually do something about it. We need fighters, we need brawlers, we need people who are willing to get dirty, people who will stand up and speak out and get Americans activated and engaged. Taking to the floor for 24 hours and more to talk about the ways in which Donald Trump and Elon Musk have run roughshod over our democracy is Booker meeting this moment. And I hope that his colleagues in the Senate and the House see that not just as a noteworthy accomplishment, which it is, but the bar. This is the bar. What are the rest of you going to do to reach that bar? Are you going to put your bodies on the line? Are you going to protest? Are you going to go out there and get arrested? Are you going to figure out how to break through in this media environment? Are you going to hold town halls in deep red districts? This isn't about doing the bare minimum. It is about doing the absolute maximum at a moment where history requires it. Because our democracy is at stake, and so history quite literally calls for big swings. To that end, here's the moment that Booker actually broke the record and the message that he was looking to send.
I'm getting close to a record, folks, but there's a room here in the Senate named after Strom Thurmond. To hate him is wrong. And maybe my ego got too caught up that if I stood here, maybe, just maybe I could break this record. But the man who tried to stop the rights upon which I stand, I'm not here, though, because of his speech. I'm here despite his speech. I'm here because as powerful as he was, the people were more powerful. But I remind you, all those people who believe like me that we've got to redeem the dream, turn again to John Lewis, because you all know the story, my colleagues, of when the man that beat him savagely, drew blood, cracked bones. Decades later, he was a congressman. That man brought his grandson with him to ask for forgiveness from John Lewis. I heard about this story when I was in the car in Georgia with him, What did you do, John? This man that so viciously beat you, wounded you, bruised you, battered you. What did you do when he came to ask you for forgiveness? What did you do? And a good Christian man of faith, simply said, every one of us needs mercy. Every one of us needs redemption. I forgave him. I hugged him. We wept. And I looked at the boy. This nation needs you too.
And finally, the moment where he realized that he secured his place in the history books.
John?
Would the senator yield for a question?
Chuck Schumer, it's the only time in my life I can tell you no.
I just want to tell you a question. Do you know you have just broken the record? Do you know how proud this caucus is of you? Do you know how proud America is of you?
Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, order.
Which, again, raises the question for the rest of the Democrats in that room, the rest of the Democrats in the House, the rest of the Democrats in the states, the rest of the Democrats looking to run for office. What are you going to do to meet this moment? Don't just view what Cory Booker did today as an accomplishment, view it as a challenge, and show us that you're willing to meet that challenge and get out there and fight. Before you go, first, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we're now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they're willing to cater to this White House. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a great way for me to be able to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's completely free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support my work. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.